Welcome to the deep dive. You know, it's pretty remarkable how often hair color is, well, one of the very first things we notice about someone.
Absolutely. Blonde, black, brunette, that vibrant red, or even, silver or white. It just stands out.
It really does. But have you ever stopped to think, is it just about looks? Or could it actually be revealing surprising things about us, like our personality, genetics, even health?
That's exactly the question we're diving into today. We've sifted through quite a bit of research, articles, and sources, and honestly, there are some fascinating facts packed in there about what your hair color might be silently saying.
Right.
It's not just surface stuff either. We're connecting the dots here between the science, the history, and even how society tends to see these different colors.
Totally. So our goal today is really to give you a shortcut, get you well informed on this. I think by the end, you might look at hair yours, someone else's a bit differently.
I think so too. Some of the connections are pretty surprising.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Yeah.
Where do we start? The basics.
Yeah, let's start with the science. At its core, hair color comes down to a pigment called melanin.
Melanin, right. That's the same pigment involved in skin and eye color too, isn't it?
Exactly the same. It sort of creates this unified color palette for each person.
So is it just one type of melanin doing all the work, or is it more complicated than that? What do the sources say?
That's a great point. It's definitely more complex. There are actually two main types of melanin that mix together. First, you have eumelanin.
Okay.
And that's the one responsible for the darker shades,
Yep.
so black and brown hair. The more eumelanin, the darker the hair. Simple as that.
Got it. And the other type for lighter hair, I assume.
Precisely. That's pheomelanin. This pigment gives us the blonde, red, and sort of golden tones.
Oh, okay.
And here's the really cool part. Your specific, unique hair color comes from the exact mix, the ratio of these two pigments.
So it's like a personal formula.
Exactly. Think of it like a genetic fingerprint. Even people with similar-looking hair might have a slightly different combination. It's really telling a little genetic story right there.
That makes it incredibly personal, doesn't it? A built-in signature. Wow.
It really is. So knowing that, let's maybe jump into the different hair colors themselves and see what makes each one special, starting with maybe the rarer ones.
Sounds good. Let's talk blonde hair. One thing that jumped out from the sources was just how rare natural blonde hair actually is.
Yeah.
Like only 2% of people worldwide.
It's incredibly rare, yeah. A tiny fraction. And biologically, it gets interesting too.
How so?
Well, the research points to links with higher sensitivity to light, which maybe isn't too surprising, but also potentially to pain.
Really? Pain sensitivity?
Yeah, there are even studies suggesting blondes might need a bit more anesthesia for surgeries. It's a subtle biological difference tied to that hair color.
Huh. That's fascinating. So if you're a natural blonde, you're carrying this rare genetic code that might even affect, how you physically experience things. What about historically? Beyond the modern, fun-loving stereotype.
Right, that's the modern take. But historically, it was quite different. In medieval Europe, for instance, blonde hair was often seen as a symbol of purity, even divinity.
Wow.
And ancient Roman poets described it as almost magical. So it carries this deep cultural weight that's evolved over time. It's not just a look, it's history.
Okay, so from the rare blonde, let's shift to the much more common brunette or brown hair.
Definitely more widespread. The vast majority of people globally fall into this category. And perception-wise, brunettes are pretty consistently seen as, dependable, intelligent, grounded.
I remember reading something about that perception even playing out professionally.
Yes, exactly. Some psychology studies we looked at suggest employers might subconsciously view brunettes as more serious or professional. It's not necessarily conscious, but it's a persistent perception.
Interesting. And there's a cool evolutionary angle too, right?
Yeah.
Something about sun protection.
Absolutely. Dark hair is packed with eumelanin, that darker pigment. And eumelanin provides natural UV protection. So brunettes essentially have this built-in shield against sun damage. Pretty neat evolutionary perk.
A natural advantage.
Yeah.
And historically, that fits too. I recall ancient Egypt associating dark hair with vitality and strength.
Yes, and the sources even mention Cleopatra apparently dyed her hair black, specifically to project a more commanding, powerful image. It adds to that idea of authority.
Speaking of dark hair, let's focus specifically on black hair now. It's the most common globally, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
The most common worldwide. But despite being common, it holds really deep symbolic meaning in many cultures.
Like what kinds of meanings?
Well, in East Asia, for example, black hair is traditionally seen as a sign of youth. youth, but also longevity and wisdom. It represents these enduring qualities.
That's quite profound. And scientifically, does that high concentration of eumelanin give black hair any particular strengths?
It seems so. People with black hair generally have the highest eumelanin levels, and this often translates to hair that's thicker, stronger, and actually less prone to going gray early compared to lighter hair colors.
So even though it's common, it comes with its own set of sort of hidden strengths.
Definitely. It's quite resilient.
Okay, now for the truly exceptional end of the spectrum. Red hair. The rarest of them all, correct?
The absolute rarest, only about 1 to 2% of the global population. And it all comes down to a specific mutation in a gene called MC1R.
MC1R, right. That controls melanin production.
Exactly. It messes with the balance, leading to much more pheomelanin, the red pigment. It's a very specific genetic quirk.
And this is where it gets really wild with redheads, biologically speaking.
Yeah.
The sources mentioned vitamin D, like a superpower.
It really is kind of a superpower. Redheads are naturally more efficient at producing their own vitamin D from sunlight.
Wow.
Think about places with less sun, like Scotland or Ireland, where red hair is more common. This ability was a huge survival advantage. It's like having a built-in vitamin D factory.
That's incredible. What an adaptation. And it doesn't stop there, right? Something about pain tolerance, too.
That's another fascinating piece.
Yeah.
Many redheads report experiencing pain differently, often having a higher sensitivity to thermal pain, like extreme cold or heat. And some studies suggest differences in how they respond to anesthesia, similar to blondes, but distinct.
So their whole system is wired a bit differently.
It appears so. It really shows how deep these genetic traits run. And historically, red hair has had this really complex, almost contradictory reputation.
Yeah, the sources mentioned being accused of witchcraft in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. But then in other times or cultures, red hair was seen as fiery, strong-willed, a sign of passion, a real duality.
So if you're a redhead, it's not just a hair color. It's like a genuine genetic superpower with this incredibly dramatic backstory.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's truly unique.
All right, finally, let's touch on gray and white hair.
Yeah.
We tend to just see it as, getting older, but there's more going on.
There is. Scientifically, gray hair happens when the pigment-producing cells in your hair follicles, the melanocytes, basically slow down and stop producing melanin.
They just retire.
Pretty much, yeah. Production ceases, and the hair grows out without pigment.
And this is where that old saying comes in, you're giving me gray hairs. Does stress actually play a role? I always wondered about that.
It actually can. The research confirms that significant or chronic stress can indeed accelerate the process of melanocyte shutting down. So yes, there's real science backing up that saying.
Huh. Good to know.
Yeah.
And culturally, the view on gray hair varies quite a bit, doesn't it?
It really does. While some cultures focus on it as just aging, others see it very differently. Japan is a great example mentioned in the sources. Silver hair is often associated with honor, wisdom, respect. It's seen as a badge of experience.
That's a much more positive perspective.
Definitely. And looking ahead, there's even research into potentially reversing it. Scientists are exploring if stem cell therapies could one day reactivate those dormant melanocytes.
Wow, imagine that. Turning back the clock on gray hair.
It's an intriguing possibility for the future.
Okay, so we've covered the science, the biology, the history, which is all fascinating. But then there's the whole social layer, right? The personality traits we tend to pin on to these colors.
Yes, and it's important to distinguish that. Science explains the why of hair color, but society adds its own layer of what it means in terms of personality. These are the stereotypes.
Right. So what did the sources generally lay out as the common ones?
Well, for blondes, as we mentioned, it's often that playful, youthful, energetic stereotype.
And brunettes.
Intelligent, trustworthy, dependable, that grounded perception we talked about.
Right. Black-haired individuals.
Often seen as strong, maybe a bit mysterious, sometimes wise. There's an aura of depth associated there.
And redheads get the
bold, passionate, unique, fiery, often. It matches the rarity, that perception of standing out.
Makes sense. And finally, gray or white hair.
Generally associated with being respected, wise, experienced, embodying that sense of accumulated knowledge and life experience.
It's amazing how pervasive these stereotypes are. Whether they hold any real water or not, they definitely shape first impressions and, how characters are even written in books and movies.
Absolutely. They've been influencing perception for centuries, adding another complex layer to what hair color communicates.
So wrapping this all up, it really feels like your hair color is telling this incredibly rich story, doesn't it? much more than just looks.
It truly is. It's this tapestry woven from science, your unique biology, deep cultural history, even mythology sometimes, all in those strands.
Yeah, it's not just style. It's history, biology, identity, all right there.
Yeah.
A kind of silent story.
Exactly. And maybe the thought to leave with is, knowing all this, the deep genetics, the historical baggage, the societal perceptions, how does that change how you see your own hair, how you perceive others? It pushes us to look beyond the surface, beyond the easy stereotypes, and consider the really profound implications of this one often overlooked aspect of who we are. It's a story told strand by strand.